What's happening, people? And once again, welcome back to youtube.com/CubCamTV for this, another full album review on CUBREACTS. I'm very excited to get into this one today. We're going to be talking about an album that for me is outstanding. I already think it's one of the best projects we've seen this year. But as always, friends, thank you for joining the CubCamTV journey. It's great to see so many of you getting involved in the channel, in the process of what we're doing. We're trying to take this to a new journalistic height, hence the fact we're doing full album reviews, we're doing news reports, all of that good stuff. And it's great to see so many of you getting involved with the channel in general. Now, today we are going to be getting into a full album review, but we are very close to hitting 31,000 subscribers on the channel, so please do make sure you are getting involved by hitting that subscribe button on the right-hand side of the page, turning notifications on, leaving a like, leaving a comment, and all of that good stuff. Now, today's album is, of course, Boj's new project. This one goes by the name The Gbagada Express. Really excited to get into this as an overall project. I love the kind of general sense of a collaborative energy running throughout this one. For me, the second I heard Culture and I knew that there was an album on the way, I knew we were in for something quite special with this. Now, I have gone through and listened to the full album a couple of times. I've made a load of notes that you'll see me looking at. I want to make sure we're doing these reviews properly with some kind of journalistic integrity more than anything else. I've been following the promotional campaign for this as a project. Obviously, Boj has been very active. I think 5 or 6 perhaps of the tracks of the album actually came out prior to its launch. So this has been a project that's been in the works for a long period of time. And I'm very excited to talk about it. Obviously, with Boj, he is a very unique artist. He has a very unique vocal tone. He has a very unique way of kind of projecting his vocals as well. And he tends to sit very nicely over quite silky sounding arrangements, very kind of drippy, very fluid sounding instrumentation is where I think he sounds best, and this album is a great example of that in motion, obviously diving in and out of the kind of alte sound that we're seeing at the same time. As I said before, a few of the singles had dropped prior, so we're going to talk about those, but not as much as the new content. And yeah, in general, it's a very enjoyable project to dive into. Obviously, he's a bit of an enigma to me, because I think he should be a lot more popular than he is. Not saying he's not popular, but I think he should be on a much more kind of global scale, and I think this album might be the thing that actually does that, because when you look at the caliber of collaborations on this album, it's absolutely incredible to dive into. So without further ado, let's jump into the first track. We open up, of course, with Owo Nikoko, this one featuring Fireboy DML, and what a way to kickstart a project. This is a huge introduction, and I think more than anything else, as a kind of respect level for what Boj is doing, Fireboy shows his class on this one. When we did the full reaction to this one, I described what Fireboy is doing as being a perfect CDM. For those that aren't aware of kind of what happens in football, your CDM is essentially one of your most important players on the pitch. He kind of sweeps up, keeps control of the midfield, and keeps control of the game without necessarily being noticed too much. So much of it is about positioning, being in the right place at the right time, kind of cutting passing lanes, and just having a general sense of control. And that is exactly what Fireboy does on this. He isn't necessarily the standout artist, but if you listen to what he does, he pulls in so many cool kind of directions, and he allows Boj to just kind of flourish on this tune. And I think it's such a cool way of introducing the album, getting one of the biggest kind of artists in the world to kind of play second fiddle whilst you introduce yourself. It's a very kind of it's a very classy way of introducing the album, I think. And then, obviously, we are going to dive into the rest of the sort of track listing moving forward. The first solo creation comes next, Tinu Iwu. Now, this one is it's a track that we get to see Boj really get onto, I don't want to say Burna Boy-esque steez, but you can kind of see a similarity in sort of earlier Burna Boy work to this one. There's a real kind of, I want to say powerful texture about the way that his voice sounds. He's able to kind of command this tune really nicely. Beautiful soundscapes going on in the background. I don't know how much Boj is involved in the production side of things. For some reason, I seem to remember him being quite involved in that side of things. So if he is, fair play. If he's not, then my apologies to whoever did kind of run the production on this album. But the floaty textures on this one are absolutely fantastic, and it has an overall wavy kind of feel to it. It's a wicked way to kind of kickstart his solo inclusions on the project, and I think Boj's low-ended vocal and the kind of control he has over that vocal is the highlight for this one. Moving forward then, we get into Lecky Love next, which sees Buju do exactly what Buju does best. I'm pretty sure it's actually listed as Buju, not Benson, as well. Fresh L does a great job on the vocal on this one, but the guitar line is the thing that really stands out to me on this one as a piece of kind of production info. It reminds me so much of Tadao from French Kiwi Juice and Masego. You know, that viral video they did at Red Bull Studios, that tune. There's a guitar line in this which sounds so similar, so I don't know whether it's been sampled and lifted or it's just been replayed in, but have a listen to the guitar sample. It sounds so similar. Not a bad thing. It's a really cool guitar sample. But overall, proper kind of clunky rhythm on this one, and it's wicked to listen to again. Check out the full reaction on the page, as you can do with Oh Only Coco as well. We've reacted to a few of these tunes already. This is kind of like the overall breakdown of the project. We get into some dancehall-inspired flavor next, as WizKid makes his very excitable appearance on Our Lowo. Now, this one is an interesting one, because I wasn't aware, but apparently there is a previous version of this that we see Darko Vibes kind of already do, and this kind of makes WizKid appearance slightly underwhelming for me in hindsight. I was very happy with it when we reacted for the first time, but he basically just carries on the same sort of flow line that we hear from Darko Vibes on the original, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a style that does actually suit WizKid quite well, but I feel like this is a tune that could have gone to different places. The highlight for me is actually the transitions between verses, how smoothly the tune kind of comes together, and it's a really interesting one to kind of listen back to in the context of the album. Slightly underwhelming, but still a solid addition to the track listing. Confam comes next, which is a very stripped back creation alongside Pretty Boy D.O., again focusing on really minimal percussive movements and a catchy call and response vocally. There's some cool horn work kind of floating around in the background as well, which kind of makes it an interesting listen. Again, Pretty Boy D.O. is one of these guys that I just feel makes such a good job on features for like kind of album projects. He always pops up with a good feature, and the feature always seems to make sense, and I think that's a running theme throughout this project as well. The features and the collaborations and the production styles all seem to make a lot of sense. But there we go. Followed up on this one, we get Out of the Way, the first kind of drill inclusion on the project alongside Kofi Jamar and Joey B. This one focusing on kind of hoarse vocal textures, and again this kind of feeling of spacious arrangement, despite the fact we've got these kind of very kind of rolly drill style drums, and also of course the quite minimal 808 bass lines below. It's a nice breakup from the more sort of Afro pop influence and kind of Alte influence flood we hear over the introduction of the project. So there we go. Moving into it, we're very much into the kind of heart of the project now, as we jump into possibly my favorite track on there, which I really do adore. It comes alongside Molly and Melissa, and this one goes by the name In the Loop. For me, it's super catchiness that really wins me over on this one. The cool musicality, I'm loving the kind of almost harp style guitar lines we hear on this one. The combination of Molly and Melissa's vocal on this one as well take it to an entirely different level. The drums sound so kind of smooth. The whole approach to this is so cool, man. Again, it's my favorite hook on the project, that "Why will we do? We stuck in a loop." There's something so catchy about the kind of ascending and descending sense of melody we hear within that hook. It's such a cool approach. We then get into the skit featuring Boj and TZ again. It seems a little out of place, but it's a skit at the end of the day, so you can take it or leave it, whether you want to listen to it or not. Personally, I've never been the biggest fan of skits. I think they actually kind of break up a project more than they kind of pull you in. They're supposed to kind of create I suppose a kind of listening experience, but for me, I feel skits often fall flat. This one does fall a little bit flat for me, but it's a skit, so you can take it or leave it at the end of the day. Moving forward though, we get back into the solo creations as Emotions sees Boj walk in with some serious majesty, exploring kind of wooden drum sounds, again smooth vocal additions, showing just how good he can be when he does roll out solo. A couple of the criticisms I've already seen for this album are there aren't enough solo tracks, which I can understand, but we know that Boj is almost like a mastermind in these collaborative scenarios, so why wouldn't you get the kind of names that he's got involved on this one? Again, the actual list of collaborators on the project is crazy. We're looking at some of the best names in kind of Afropop and Afrobeats in general, Alte as well. We're looking at some of the best names out there, so why wouldn't you get them involved when you are kind of masterful in regards to collaboration? But it's also cool to see him roll out on solo duty, and again, Emotions is a great example of that. Beautifully arranged, really commanding presence vocally again, and I think this is where Boj sits really nicely on these kind of on these solo tunes, when there's a sense of kind of grandiosa about what's going on. Really cool. But yeah, moving forward, one of my tracks of the year does come up next. It's a track I mentioned earlier, and that is of course Culture. Boj and Ezzy Eni showing their absolute mastery on this one. Again, watch the full reaction to this one if you want to see my thoughts. I don't want to dive into it too much, because I have explained just how much I love this tune. But again, Eni's verse, genius. I think Eni is one of the best rappers in the UK, and I think this track is a great example as to why. But also, Boj's hook, the smokiness of this one. It feels like I am wearing a fedora, smoking a cigar, drinking a very nice single malt in a nice jazz club. That's the visual element I get off it. And then the music video for this is actually great as well, so do go and check that out if you haven't already. But again, check out the reaction if you want my full thoughts on this one. But for me, this is one of the tracks of the year, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, moving forward, Victony arrives for a very enjoyable appearance on Unconscious Sleeve, which is, again, all about both of their vocals. Again, Boj coming with a really silky smooth vocal approach, and Victony with the much more kind of higher-ended vocal sounds. This one is an interesting one because the actual arrangements are very stripped back. There's minimal drum lines, minimal kind of melodics going on. It's all about the vocal lines. And again, this is a nice switch up from what we've heard so far. Really nicely intertwined vocal alongside Victony, who is currently one of the stars of the of tomorrow, realistically. His new single is out now again, Colamental. Go and check that out. We've reacted to that on the channel. He is on fire. But yeah, moving forward, again with these reviews, I like to kind of sidle through as much as we can and really get into the nitty-gritty of the project by talking through as many of the tracks as we can. And obviously this is a 16-track album, so we need to make sure we're getting through as many as we can. Two back-to-back previous releases next. As first up we hear Money and Laughter, which this one hits home with some seriously catchy grooves, joined by Zamir and the fabulous Amaray. This is it's a wicked tune. Again, it's one we had heard before, but again, catchiness and unique vocal textures seem to be a real kind of theme running throughout the heart of this project, alongside collaborations that make sense and kind of stripped back instrumentation. Those are the kind of four themes we see really running throughout the kind of bloodline of this project. The kind of heart and soul of it is this concept that Boj is so good at. Again, tying very much into a lot of what the Alte sound is all about. He's just so good at picking where to do what, you know. It's a really good album of decision making, I feel. Not to reference back to football, but that's kind of like the idea I'm getting off it. And again, this is followed by Abracadabra alongside Mr. Easy and Davido. I don't think we need to dive into this one too much. It's already somewhat of a classic, to me at least. But again, it's great to see Mr. Easy actually included on the project. I'm a big fan of Mr. Easy, and obviously Davido being on here as well is absolutely huge. Like, you've got big names on this. You've got WizKid, you've got Fireboy, you've got Davido, you've got a ton of huge collaborative features on this one. It's crazy to see. But there we go. Moving into two more originals next. Abong JR is the next star to pass through as Action Boys delivers a melancholy ode to getting stuff done. That's what I've written down in my notes, and that's the general vibe I get off the tune. Again, utilizing the unique approach of Abong JR and the emotive vocal presence of Boj with a wicked link up. These two work so well together. I've said it numerous times. Abong JR is one of my favorite artists in the UK. I think he's got such a unique and again, generational approach to making music. I think Abong JR will go down as a kind of pioneer. Again, utilizing those kind of raspy vocal tones. It works really nicely. And then finally, the final original is, of course, the Gbagada Express, the title track for the project, which again is a solo appearance from Boj, delivering more silky vocal tones as the project begins to wind down. I always find it a little bit strange when the title track is really late on in a project. I always feel it should have been nearer the start, but I understand exactly why the title track for the project is so far down, because when you look at the collaborations, it makes sense to get those collaborations in first. Opening up with Fireboy playing kind of CDM, I think that's a genius move, because it just kind of shows just how much Boj is both respected and, of course, just how much he can do when he's given the tools to work with, you know. Finally, Afro Nation and Tiwa Savage both join Boj on Your Love, another previously released creation that serves as a sumptuous outro track. And again, it rounds off one of the strongest drops of the year so far for me. This, as an overall album project, it's absolutely spectacular. I think arrangement-wise, track listing-wise, the ordering of the project makes perfect sense. The way it kind of darts around and has this really nice kind of flow running throughout the heart of it. I'm not mad at the amount of solo tracks on there. I think there's only 3 solo tracks in total, but I'm not mad at it. I don't really see why it's an issue. At the end of the day, it's an album. It's a collection of material, and as an artist, he is much more of a collaborative artist than he is a solo artist, which I have no issue with whatsoever. I think this is a great example of what you can do when you're given the tools to kind of build those incredible collaborations. But again, when we do hear Boj, we do hear a level of vocal mastery. And again, when we hear the collaborations, everyone brings their A game, or at least the A game needed for the project. For me, it's clearly in the running as an overall project for the album of the year. I think it sits quite easily next to Rema's just for how creative, how out there, how explosive, how well thought out it is. The decision making on the album is fantastic, and the general direction of the production is also incredible. So there we go, guys. What are your thoughts on this album? Let me know in the comments section down below. I'm a massive fan of what Boj is doing. I'm trying my best to find a way of contacting him so we can try and get him onto the Breakfast Show for a conversation. I would love to talk to him about this album because for me it is one of the strongest albums out there right now. So there we go, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed. Please do let me know in the comment section below if you have. Also, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button on the right hand side of the page if you are new to the channel, turning notifications on, leaving a like, leaving a comment, and all of that good stuff. That's it from me though. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good one, and peace.
Sounding so good right now. But they're sounding a bright and town.
Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel right now, CubCamTV. Stay locked.